Welcome back everyone. Today we continue with part 55 of our What If Goku Was Betrayed and Locked Inside the Hyperbolic Time Chamber series. Let's aim for 350 likes on this one, okay? Let's get those engagements up like they used to. So don't forget to leave a comment letting me know if you've enjoyed the series so far. With that, let's begin. The scene switches back to Universe 18, a divine universe nestled within Zeno's pocket dimension. Here lies the abode of the 5 strongest beings. However, upon the Omni King's arrival, only one of these beings was present. This being was Amuku, who had transported himself from outside Vegeta's mind, and was now waiting patiently for the Omni King, having sensed the exact moment the universe was breached. As soon as the Grand Priest and the Omni King landed, Amuku hurried to greet them. Given that he and the Grand Priest could never see eye to eye, Amuku only acknowledged Zeno, completely ignoring the Daishinkan. "Welcome, my lord. I've kept the Saiyan laying down in the temporal room. Please follow me," he said with a respectful bow. Zeno nodded and followed Amuku, his mind preoccupied with thoughts of the aquafoam. After extracting both halves of the aquafoam from each Saiyan, he pondered whether he would be able to merge them back into their original state, or would they continue to reject each other. This question puzzled him, especially after so many miscalculations in the past. If this method failed, he wondered if killing the Saiyans would cause the aquafoam to seek a new host outside their bodies, given that it needed a living being to regulate it. The aquafoam couldn't remain inside a lifeless being, it needed a living host. Initially, this task fell to the Fountain of Creation, then to Zarama, but since Zarama wasn't pure of heart, he couldn't access the aquafoam's full untapped power. Now, it had moved on to the Saiyans. Zeno knew that if the Saiyans weren't alive, the aquafoam would have to leave their bodies and search for a new host. This would give him a second chance to merge both halves by allowing it to enter his own body, its rightful home, considering he was the one who placed it in the Fountain of Creation in the first place. Zeno's intellect was growing with every failure. The more he stumbled, the more he learned. He realized, wasn't his teacher, failure was. Each setback brought him closer to true omniscience. "We're here, my lord," replied Zarama as he gazed at the Saiyans, but confusion clouded his mind. To his surprise, the Saiyans, who had been laid out on the ground, were now standing, though still unconscious. "What?" Amuku exclaimed, struggling to understand what he was seeing. This shouldn't be possible. Not unless the Saiyans were beginning to regain consciousness. Zeno and the Grand Priest, however, were unaware of the significance of this change. They assumed the Saiyans had always been like that. "Is something the matter, Amuku?" the Daishinkan asked, a hint of suspicion in his voice. "Well, you see, no," Amuku stammered, realizing this might be a good thing. If the Saiyans' bodies were reacting to subtle instructions from their brains, it meant they were regaining some control. This could make it easier to guide their souls back to their bodies. However, he also knew they needed to extract the aquafoam from within their bodies first. If the Saiyans were starting to wake up, it meant they were beginning to regain control over the aquafoam. If they managed to regulate it as before, the overflow of aquafoam he had seen bursting out inside the Saiyan's psyche earlier would disappear. "My lord, the Saiyan minds are prepared. Would you like to enter now?" Amuku asked. "What's the rush?" the Grand Priest replied, sensing that Amuku was hiding something. These two were always at odds, and they had developed a knack for knowing when the other was concealing something, even if it was just a feeling. But then Zeno replied, "The Saiyans are starting to wake up, aren't they, Amuku?" Zeno could tell that something had changed among the Saiyans. He might not be completely omniscient yet, but he was still omnipotent. He could sense any change in power within his domain, meaning all power inside the multiverse was visible to his all-seeing eyes. When the Grand Priest first brought the Saiyans to him, he immediately knew that the aquafoam was overpowering them. The Saiyans' stamina had plummeted to dangerous levels, dropping below what was needed to regulate the aquafoam. Since the aquafoam needed constant regulation, the struggle caused the Saiyans to fall into a coma-like state. It was a dire choice: use their last remaining energy to maintain the aquafoam or face death. For mortals and most gods who tried to use the aquafoam, failing to keep it purified and regulated meant it would drain every single ounce of their energy, ultimately killing them. It wasn't that the Saiyans were starting to awaken, it was the aquafoam reacting to the presence of the Omni King. This realization caused Zeno's eyes to glow a bright white light as he levitated towards the Saiyans. Starting with Vegeta, he placed his finger in the middle of Vegeta's chest, where the aquafoam was concentrated. The aquafoam was located at the center of the body, where it could send out or absorb most of the body's energy. Suddenly, Zeno found himself in a place surrounded by darkness. All around him, he could hear a low chant.
"All shall converge into one and one shall reign supreme."
The chant repeated over and over again. Sensing something was wrong, The Grand Priest appeared in front of Vegeta in the blink of an eye, his hands folded behind him. He then flicked Vegeta on the forehead, sending the sand flying backwards. This broke the connection, and the glow left Zeno's eyes, along with the chanting voice. As Vegeta was about to collide with the wall, he subconsciously stopped himself mid-air. His eyes closed as he remained unconscious. This surprised the Grand Priest. Even though that was a small burst of power, it was still impressive from a god's perspective. A mortal like Vegeta should not have managed that, especially while still unconscious. A smile began to form on the Daishinkan's face. Was it just instinct, he wondered. With his hand now by his side, he charged at Vegeta, but was instantly stopped by Zeno, who shouted, "Stand down!" Instantly, the Grand Priest halted in his tracks. "Amuku, it's time. Take me inside the Sand's mind. There is something I want to confirm." The Omni King had questions. New things kept happening without his knowledge. Events, different futures, all escaping his all-seeing eyes. Furthermore, the voice in the vision seemed very familiar. To him, it sounded eerily close to the voice of his father, but that seemed absurd to him. He hadn't communicated with his father for over a millennium. Why would he intervene now? Was this message a clue? These thoughts flooded his mind. One thing was for certain. The closer he got to the aquafoam, the more answers were revealed. Without hesitation, Amuku initiated the transfer by placing his finger on Vegeta's forehead once more. However, this time he met resistance. Just like before, he tried to break through by overpowering him, but this time it didn't work. Like glass, his concentration shattered. "Impossible," he shouted. "How could he have broken my control? Who is this San?" Increasing his power even more, Amuku raised his energy output to 15%. This was enough force to shatter the minds of most beings, yet to his complete and utter disbelief, he still couldn't enter. From here on, if he decided to increase his power even more, it would start affecting himself. Although his technique was powerful, even it had limits. He just never knew where it maxed out, as no being had ever withstood such an enormous amount of angelic energy before without breaking. Suddenly, Vegeta's heart began to pump harder, his stamina and energy starting to come back. But how? What was causing this? You see, Amuku had made a mistake without even knowing it. After training on Yardrat, Vegeta achieved a new technique called Force Spirit Fission. The moment Amuku touched Vegeta, Vegeta subconsciously started to absorb Amuku's energy. This was enough to revitalize his body, not to full health, but to a whopping 5%. This was just enough to regain control of the aquafoam, which was slowly killing him. The second mistake was made by Zeno, who touched him once more. Again, Vegeta's technique went into motion, absorbing a large amount of energy from Zeno, replenishing his body and stamina back up to an astounding 20% of his max health. That was why the Grand Priest attacked him earlier. He sensed something was wrong. Suddenly, Vegeta's eyes snapped open. A radiant, almost radioactive aura burst forth, filling the room with blinding light. This was the buildup of energy inside his psyche. Amuku, taken aback, hastily erected a protective barrier around himself, allowing him to pass through the gamma burst of radiant energy waves. Zeno and the Grand Priest remained unmoved. The Daishinkan, with a serious look on his face, effortlessly absorbed the residual energy with a mere flick of his fingertips, before teleporting the energy outside of the palace, allowing it to explode far off in the galaxy. The multiverse shook under the pressure. This was not normal energy. It was the excess aquafoam Vegeta released from his body, as maintaining so much would kill him. Instantly, Vegeta now fully awakened. His gaze swept across the room, landing first on Grand Zeno and then on the Grand Priest. Amidst the powerful figures, he spotted Amuku, an unknown yet clearly powerful entity radiating strength beyond that of the angels. His heart sank as the reality of his situation dawned on him. He was surrounded. Before him stood three beings vastly more powerful than he was. Even at full strength, he doubted he could take them on. Beside him, Vegeta saw Goku, still lost in the depths of unconsciousness. The last memory that clawed its way through Vegeta's mind was their battle with Zarama, the first mortal and the being who killed Gohan. As the reality settled in, a pang of dread gripped him. Broly, where is he? I can't sense him or Gohan. Desperation set in. Instinctively, Vegeta decided to use something he had sworn never to use again: instant transmission. He teleported to Goku, placing one hand on his shoulder and trying to teleport away. However, there was a significant problem with this approach. He needed to focus on sensing the energy of someone to teleport to their location. Now, he couldn't sense the energy of anyone. To him, everyone on Earth didn't exist. In fact, he couldn't even locate Earth. Vegeta started to question everything. Where were they? He felt as if their luck had run out. Kakarot, wake up, you fool, he shouted, transferring 10% of his energy to Goku in hopes of waking him up. But things didn't go as planned. Goku remained unconscious. "It seems you have managed to regain consciousness," said the Grand Priest, his gaze now fixed on Vegeta. "Permission to subdue him, my lord?" asked the Grand Priest. However, the Omni King said something that shocked both Amuku and the Grand Priest. Even Vegeta was surprised. "I'll handle this. I've gotten quite bored sitting down. Furthermore, this is my trial. It's time I take some action. These two have caused me quite a lot of trouble lately. They have managed to escape my all-seeing eyes. It's time I correct those predictions." Vegeta immediately went on the defensive, powering up to Super Saiyan Blue evolution, the furthest he could reach given his current stamina level. The situation felt hopeless to Vegeta. He knew he couldn't win, his death was guaranteed, but he was a warrior, and he would rather go down fighting. He muttered to himself, closing his eyes with a smile on his face. "My darling Bulma, my baby girl Bulla, I'm sorry you have to grow up without me. Kakarot, Broly, Gohan, we were out of our minds going up against the gods of this world. I fought. I'll see you again, either in this world or even after death." Instantly, Vegeta's energy shot upward, rising higher and higher before he took his stand in a fighting position. That's it for this episode, guys. If you've watched to the end, then that may be an indication that you enjoy the episode, so please drop a like so the video could reach more people. See you in the next episode. Take care.